Hello, the topic we are discussing today is Principles of Lifespan Development. The objectives of this module are: at the end of this chapter, the student can tell the principles of a lifespan developmental approach. They will understand the different concepts of development and explain different meanings of development. So what is development? Development refers to systematic and successive changes within human system that occur across the lifespan and occur in different domains such as biological, social, emotional and cognitive. Developmental psychologists are concerned with different issues related to these. They see the development of an organism follows certain principles. They deal with how development occurs across the lifespan, developing knowledge on the general principles of development. According to Paul Baltus, there are a set of principles which guide the study of human development. These principles form a family of beliefs which specify a coherent view of the nature of development and characterize the lifespan approach. Following are the principles given by Baltus. The first principle of development is that development is lifelong. It proceeds across the entire lifespan. There is no age period that is supreme in its impact on the life course. Instead, events occur during each major period. Development occurs throughout each major period, namely prenatal, infancy, early and middle childhood, adolescence, and adulthood till death. Within each period, change occurs in three broad domains, that is, physical, cognitive, and social. These domains are not really distinct, they overlap and interact a great deal. Every age period has its own agenda, bringing with it unique demands and opportunities that yield some similarities in development across many individuals. Secondly, development is multidimensional and multidirectional. It need not follow set norms. It can't be described by single criterion and can be achieved in wide varieties of ways. The challenges and adjustments of development has multidimensional effect. It is affected by an integrated blend of biological, cognitive and socio-emotional dimensions. And many factors such as genes, environment, society and culture influence development. Lifespan development is also multidirectional, which is, development is not limited to improved performance. Instead, at all periods, it is a joint expression of growth and decline. Some dimensions may expand and others shrink as individuals develop. For example, in socio-emotional development, adolescents begin to establish intimate relationships with the opposite sex, and their relationship with the same-sex peers might decrease. Likewise, in cognitive development, older adults might become wiser by calling on experience to guide their decision making. However, they perform poorly on tasks that require speed in processing information. Thirdly, development is plastic. Plasticity refers to the within-person variability which is possible for a particular behavior or development. It refers to an individual's ability to change or adapt. For example, a child who loses one of his arms may learn to perform multiple functions with another arm. Another example would be if a young boy had a large part of his left side of his brain removed to stop recurrent seizures, the right side of his brain begins to take over the functions normally carried out by the left side of the brain. Physical, environmental and psychological challenges may lead to an individual's variance in development. Fourthly, development is situated in context and history, which means that the individual continually responds to the context of the surroundings, which include a person's biological makeup, physical environment and cognitive processes, as well as historical and socio-cultural contexts. Socio-cultural contexts range from families to peer groups to schools and neighborhoods. For example, parents in the United States rear their children to be more independent when compared to parents in Japan, which is a more collective and interdependent upbringing. Three types of influences are exerted by context, that is, normative age-graded influences, normative history-graded influences, and non-normative life events. Non-normative age-graded influences are similar for individuals in a particular age group. These influences include biological processes such as puberty and menopause. They also include socio-cultural environmental processes such as beginning formal education, which is usually at about the age of 6, and retirement. Normative history-graded influences are common to people of a particular generation because of historical circumstances. Examples include economic changes such as Great Depression, wars, the changing role of women, the current technology revolution, political upheavals, and terrorist attacks. All these exert their influence on one's development. Non-normative life events. These are unusual occurrences that have a major impact on individual's life. Examples include death of a parent when a child is young, pregnancy in early adolescence, a fire that destroys one's home, or even getting an unexpected career opportunity with special privileges. Fifthly, development is multidisciplinary. Because of the complexity of human development, the expertise from many disciplines is necessary to understand it completely. For example, to understand how intelligence develops, researchers from neuroscience, genetics, anthropology, sociology, and other disciplines as well as psychology work together in unlocking the mysteries of development through the lifespan. Lastly, development involves growth, maintenance, and regulation. Baldus and his colleagues argue that mastery of life involves conflicts and competition among three aspects of human development, that is, growth, maintenance, and regulation. As individuals age into middle and late adulthood, the maintenance and regulation of their capacities take center stage away from the growth that characterized development in early stages. Thus, for many middle-aged and older adults, the goal is not to seek growth in intellectual capacities such as memory or physical capacities such as strength, but to maintain those skills or minimize their deterioration. Apart from the principles of development given by Baldus, there are other principles of development which are described as follows. Firstly, development proceeds stage by stage. The development of child occurs in different stages and each stage has certain unique characteristics. The characteristics of developmental stages are hierarchy in stages. The order of succession of the stages is invariant. The stage invariance does not say anything about the chronological ages and does not exclude the possibility of certain variations. Stages may be accelerated or retarded in their onset or may not even appear at all as a function of motivation, exercise, and social milieu. Secondly, integration. Transition from an early stage to a later stage involves a process of integration. That means the preceding structure becomes a part of the later structure. Thirdly, consolidation. A period or stage involves at once an aspect of formation and preparation for the behavior of the next stage and also an aspect of achievement of the recently acquired behavior. Fourthly, structuring. Each structure constitutes at the same time the attainment of one stage and the starting point of the next. Stages are interrelated. Development involves change. There is a change both in growth and development. They are inseparable. Neither takes place all alone. Growth refers to quantitative changes, increases in size and structure. The child grows mentally as well as physically, and development refers to qualitative and quantitative changes. Therefore, there is a progressive series of orderly and coherent changes. Progressive means changes are directional. They go forward rather than backward. And stages of development are orderly and coherent. This indicates that there is a definite relationship between the changes taking place and those that preceded or will follow them. The human being is never static. From the moment of conception to the time of death, the person is undergoing changes. At every age, some of the changes that occur during the developmental process are just beginning, some are at peak, and some are in the process of decline. Let us look at few types of changes in development. Changes in development are antagonistic, that is, they occur in opposition to each other. Two antagonistic processes take place simultaneously, that is, growth or evolution and atrophy or involution. For example, physically increase in body size is accompanied with modifications of composition of the body. This can be an example of growth and evolution. Mentally, the young child's emotions lack gradations. Violent temper outbursts may have no relation to the intensity of the frustrating situation. However, with increased intelligence and experience, the child is able to control anger responses to meet the approved standards of the social situation. This can be an example of atrophy or involution. Development proceeds from the head downwards, also called as Cephalocaudal principle. The child gains control of the head first, then the arms and then the legs. Infants develop control of the head and face movements and are able to lift themselves up by using their arms. Coordination of arms always precedes coordination of legs. Development also proceeds from the center of the body outward. This principle is called Proximodistal development. It describes the direction of development. The spinal cord develops before the outer parts of the body. The child's arms develop before the hands. Hands and feet develop before the fingers and toes. And finally, finger and toe muscles are the last to develop in physical development. Development depends on maturation and learning. Maturation is the unfolding of characteristics potentially present in the individual that come from the individual's genetic endowment. In phylogenetic functions that are common to the race, like sitting and walking, development comes from maturation. In ontogenetic functions, where functions are specific to the individual, like swimming, training is essential. Changes in the brain and nervous system account largely for maturation. These changes help children to improve in thinking and motor skills. Children must mature to a certain point before they can progress to learn new skills. Maturational patterns are innate, that is, they are genetically programmed. The child's environment and learning largely determine whether the child will reach optimal development. A stimulating environment and varied experiences allow a child to develop his or her potential. So, it is an interaction between nature and nurture that causes development. Some aspects of development are distinctly biological, like puberty, and the onset of puberty can be affected by environmental factors such as diet and nutrition. Another example would be the child needs to develop physically to be able to walk or climb stairs. First, the baby's muscles need to gain strength and initiate crawling, and then be able to stand on its own and walk at least a few steps. And only then the child learns to climb stairs. Therefore, the child needs to mature physically or internally to be able to learn from its environment. Development proceeds from the simple to the more complex behavior. Initially, the basic skills are acquired and progress to much more complex skills. Development proceeds in a very systematic manner. For example, the child first learns that objects are assigned with specific names. As children develop further in cognitive skills, they are able to understand a higher and more complex relationship exists between objects and things. Similar example would be the child acquires language and employs it to communicate to its caregiver. As the child grows, it employs language and cognitive skills to reason and solve day-to-day problems. And as an adult, an individual draws from their experience and becomes wise. Growth and development is a continuous process. One stage of development lays the foundation for the next stage of development. As a child develops, he or she adds to the skills already acquired, and the new skills become the basis for further achievement and mastery of skills. Most children follow a similar pattern. For example, in motor development, there is a predictable sequence of development that occur before walking. Therefore, one can say that development is continuous and it evolves from being simple to complex. Development may seem continuous as well as discontinuous. Continuous development. Development is a gradual and continuous process. Continuity is conceived as a process of the gradual accumulation of a behavior, skill or knowledge. Just like a tree grows from a small seed, few aspects in development of human being also happen gradually. Similarly, a child's first word, though seemingly an abrupt event, is actually the result of weeks and months of growth and practice. Puberty may seem abrupt, but it is a gradual process that occurs over several years. Development is also discontinuous. Each person is described as passing through a sequence of stages in which change is qualitatively rather than quantitatively different. For example, as the caterpillar changes to a butterfly, it is no more a caterpillar. It becomes a different kind of an organism, though it has evolved out of the same structure. Its development is discontinuous. Similarly, behaviors or skills often change qualitatively across time, and new organizations of behavior, skills or knowledge emerge in a rather abrupt or discrete fashion. For example, from thinking in a very concrete manner, the child begins to think about the world in more abstract manner. This is a qualitative, discontinuous development and not a quantitative one. Growth and development proceed from general to specific. Growth occurs from large muscle movements to more refined muscle movements. There is a process of differentiation and integration in development. From gross movements emerge smaller, finer and more specific patterns of behavior. These specific patterns are again integrated to form new and complex forms of activity. In motor development, the infant will be able to grasp an object with the whole hand before using only the thumb and the forefinger. The infant's first motor movements are very generalized, undirected and reflexive, waving arms or kicking before being able to reach or crawl towards an object. Early development is more critical. During the course of development, the human organism passes through certain phases during which he is more sensitive to certain specific influences. Any developmental stage may be critical in two respects. It may mark a period or stage beyond which a phenomenon will not appear. At that stage of development, an organism may be specially sensitive to certain environmental influences. The environment in which children live during their early formative years of life has a strong impact on their heredity potentials. These early foundations are so firmly established that they will be apparent throughout one's life and that any changes that do occur will be very minimal. Conditions affecting early foundations are favorable interpersonal relationships, emotional states, child training methods, early role playing, childhood family structure, and environmental stimulation. Therefore, we can say that there is an order and sequence in an individual's development. It progresses in a very step-by-step fashion and proceeds from simple to the complex. Each achieved behavior forms the foundation of more advanced behaviors. There are social expectations for each developmental period, and every area of development has potential hazards. And also, happiness varies across different periods in development.